Hi folks, and welcome back to the channel. So it's late summer in New Jersey. It's been hot, and summertime is the time for softwood cutting propagation. So today we're going to show you two different azaleas, a white azalea that's been on our property for decades, and then some non-patented lavender azaleas that we also have that we take cuttings from. So for those of you who are just starting out in a nursery, this is a good time to think about if you want to start a lot of plants without a large investment, where can you get cuttings? So you may look around your own property and have some opportunity for cuttings. You might use some friends' homes, offer to trim their bushes in exchange for the cuttings. And then you may also have some family or other sources where you can go and find plants and make cuttings. The other thing you can do is you can buy plants in October, usually at 50% off at nurseries and big box stores. We've acquired a number of plants that way that we have not only up-potted and resold, but we've taken cuttings from them and gotten our own stock started from those initial plants. Some we're going to keep for long-term propagation, and some we're just going to grab some cuttings from and get started and then sell those plants off. So over the next couple of weeks, we'll probably do several other propagation videos. We've got a number of plants that we propagate in the summer. And we do also, it's interesting to note, we have to prune them at about the same time. So for next year's growth to branch out even fuller. And we make use of those cuttings and try to root those softwood cuttings so that we have a never-ending supply of plants and increasing the total number of plants that we are growing. So stick with us and watch our videos coming up. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We appreciate all the support and the encouragement of you folks that are watching at home, and we hope to encourage you right back. Thanks. So to start with, we're going to get ready for our cuttings. So as soon as we have them in our hands, we can go ahead and stick them. We use these totes. You can probably buy them at garage sales. You may have some laying around the house. We use them over and over again. And this year we're going to try something a little bit different. So we use totes for the reason that we can keep our medium moist, that we don't have to water too often, that animals can't get in because they're covered. We have a lot of trouble with small animals picking at our seedlings, squirrels, voles, mice maybe, and so that's an issue for us. And then also, uncovered cuttings have to be watered they'd have to be watered every day or misted, and we're just not able to do that. But one of the disadvantages of a covered container like this is you're going to get potentially some mold or bacteria growing around the top of the soil level right when that plant comes out of the soil. So to eliminate that, we're actually going to take these, and you can see I've done a couple, put some little ventilation holes in. So you can imagine your soil comes up to this level, then you've got a little ventilation, and then your plant is covered in moist air above that. So up to here, dirt, plants are going to come out. This air is going to stay moist all the time, but it's going to get a little bit of ventilation right at that level where the plant comes out of the soil or the medium. And in this case, we're going to use perlite and peat moss mixture. Okay, so we have our containers. We've got some ventilation holes in. I'll warn you to be careful with the drill because the plastic wants to crack and not drill a nice clean hole, but that's okay. We just really want to get a little ventilation. It doesn't need to be pretty, and you don't need to do it this way. Maybe you've got a little different way than I do. So we're going to mix up about a 50-50 mixture of perlite, and this is just compressed peat moss that we buy in bales. Your mix is probably 2/3 perlite and 1/3 peat moss. And what you get by doing this is the perlite's going to support the plant you're cutting, and I've just found over time that the peat moss is going to hold a little bit of moisture in it and make the consistency of that moisture more even. You're not going to have to worry about it drying out so much. and it ends up being just about perfect. So mix it up. Set it down, and we've got our soil just a little bit too high, maybe. Said we want to have our mixture soil just below those holes. Okay. I'm down in the yard next to one of my favorite plants to propagate. I've got a bucket of water for my cuttings. Put that aside. So this is a white azalea. You know from the age of the house that this plant was probably planted in the 1930s, late 30s, early 40s. It's been here a really long time. It's very substantial. It's actually hard to keep it tamed down. So taking some cuttings each year from it is a fantastic thing to do for the plant and for our cuttings. And so I'm going to go ahead through and select some cuttings and show you what I'm taking. I'm looking for this year's growth, and I'm going to take a little bit more than that. And I'll trim these up when I get them up to the bench. Don't really want this azalea getting any bigger than it is, so I don't mind taking some good sized cuttings from it. These are actually perfect because these are this year's growth, and when we get ready to stick these, I'll show you what we'll do, but there's about 8 cuttings right on that one branch. Just to show you a few more of what I would think are good cuttings. That's a nice stem. It's all new growth. We're going to take off the bottom there, take off 4 of the leaves. Trim these back. We don't need the leaves. The leaves are just going to cause the plant to aspirate and dry out. It's the power of the rooting is going to come from the stem of the plant. It's not photosynthesizing and getting strength from the sun when rooting. Okay, that's nice. And just want to show you a small one. So you can clearly see this is the woodier part of the plant. We might try to root that in the fall. This is this year's growth, and we go right below those bottom leaves. You can just strip off those 4. A little scar, snip the leaves, and that's a great cutting. It seems awfully small, but that'll root nicely and it'll grow very well into a nice small azalea. Okay, the final step in propagating the azaleas, once we've got our cuttings prepared, we've stripped off the lower branches, we're going to dip them in our rooting hormone. We're using Hormidin 3 in this case. And we're just going to go ahead and stick them in our soil mixture. I've already pre-pushed some holes in. It may or may not be necessary, but I like to do it. Tap off any excess rooting hormone. And in they go. There's about 60 that we've done here, and I've still got half a tray left to fill out. So here's our tray now, half filled. Approximately 60 cuttings. And with these softwood cuttings this time of year, good conditions, we would expect more than half of these to make it, maybe even better than that. We've had as much as maybe 90%. Okay, our next plant that we're going to propagate is a lavender azalea. It's non-patented. And what's interesting about this plant is that a year ago we didn't own these. We purchased them at the end of October, 50% off sale at a big box store. They were originally only about this size. We've up-potted them and they've grown quite a bit since then. And we've got enough in the 6 plants that we have here, enough to take 200 or 300 cuttings per year. We'll eventually plant these in our yard to be able to enjoy them. And then each year they'll produce 200 or 300 cuttings for us so that we can continue to propagate these forever and ever. Okay, so we can run through these very quickly. You can see here's last year's older, woodier growth. And this is this year's newer, somewhat softer, but still strong growth, but it's lighter green. And these are the pieces that we want. We want a couple of leaf nodes at the bottom. In this case, it could probably get about 6, 7. Give it a little scar, and we're going to drop these in water after we trim these leaves back a little bit. And that's a nice cutting. That's really quite perfect. Again, you don't need the leaves because the plant would only aspirate out through those, dry up. The power of the rooting is in the stem and in those leaf nodes right here. And that's what you want. So we'll get right to it. So this is the end result of all of our work. We have them covered here because that's what keeps these protected. And you'll remember we've got some holes around the edge, so you'll get a little bit of air circulation around these plants. Once covered, this whole top area where the leafy part of the plant is will stay very humid. And in about 2 hours of time, maybe 3, we made a total of about 60 of the white cuttings, the white azaleas, and about 150, 160 of the lavender. And so total of over 200 cuttings. We expect most of these will take in about 4 to 6 weeks. We'll keep them covered and periodically watered, and we'll check on them, but mostly covered so that they don't get devastated by rain or animals. They've got a little air circulation, and they are in a very humid environment though. So please stay tuned. We've got some more videos coming up on softwood plant propagation. The summertime is a great time to increase your plants and your total plant count. And we thank you for watching today.